Dominance is one of three major types of human relationships that, according to the anthropologist Alan Fiske, characterize social life in all cultures. Each prescribes a distinct way of distributing resources. Each has a distinct evolutionary basis, and each applies most naturally to certain people, but can be extended through negotiation and manipulation to others. So I've already mentioned dominance, whose logic is don't mess with me, and which presumably we inherited from the dominance hierarchies that are widespread among primates and indeed mammals. There's a very different relationship that Fiske calls communality, whose logic is what's mine is thine, what's thine is mine, or share and share alike. And this naturally arises from the mechanism of kin selection and mutualism, and hence is most naturally applied among biological kin, between spouses, and among close friends. And then there's reciprocity, whose logic is you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, which evolved via the mechanism of reciprocal altruism, spelled out by Robert Trivers, and which characterizes the more business-like tit-for-tat exchanges of favors and goods and services among cooperators. Now, crucially, behavior that's acceptable in one relationship type can be highly anomalous in the context of another. For example, you might go over at a cocktail party, go over to your girlfriend and help yourself to a shrimp off her plate. But you wouldn't go up to your boss and help yourself to a shrimp off his plate, because what you can get away with in a communal relationship, namely just taking and giving without keeping track, you can't get away with in a dominance relationship. If at the end of a dinner party, on the way out, you pulled out your wallet and offered to pay your host for the meal, that wouldn't be seen as fair, that would be seen as crass, because the whole point of a communal gathering like a dinner party is that one shares without accounting. Now, those are cases where everyone knows what you should and shouldn't do. But in cases where it's not so clear, when the relationships are ambiguous, a divergent understanding can be emotionally costly. It's experienced as an unpleasant state that we call awkwardness. For example, there can be awkward moments in a workplace when an employee isn't sure whether he can address his boss on a first-name basis or ask him out after work for a drink, where we see the clash between dominance and the communal relationship of friendship. It's well known that close friends shouldn't engage in a business transaction, like one of them selling his car to the other, that the very process of negotiating the deal can put a strain on the friendship. The conflict between dominance and sex defines the battleground for sexual harassment, as when a supervisor solicits sex from an employee. And even the clash between friendship or sex, two not so compatible relationships, gives dating its frisson and anxiety and supplies the raw material for the writers of romantic comedies. So what this gives us is a social identification problem where the social costs of awkwardness from a mismatched relationship type can duplicate the payoff matrix of a legal identification problem. And bribing a maitre d' is a good example, where the potential clash is between the dominance or authority relationship that a maitre d' ordinarily wields over his restaurant fiefdom, where he seats people where and when he wants, and the reciprocity relationship that is part of a bribe in which he'd be obligated to seat someone in return for accepting the bribe. So again, let's imagine that there were only two options on the part of the diner: to offer a naked bribe in so many words or to remain silent. What is the optimal course of action? Well, very much depends on whether he has a corrupt maitre d' who would give him a quick table, the high payoff, and because the maitre d' would have consummated the reciprocity relationship, there is no social tension. Or, on the other hand, you have a scrupulous maitre d' who would say, what kind of an establishment do you think this is? How dare you insult me? Do you think you can get in with that? Where the clash between the dominance that he continues to wield and the reciprocity that you've suggested by your bribe leads to that negative emotion of awkwardness.